Well, hello, everybody. It is a beautiful Friday morning here in Seattle, or at least it will be. We're having incredible weather out here, but this morning it's overcast, which is not terribly odd at this time of year to have a little bit overcast in the morning. But promise is that it's going to burn off and we'll have another beautiful day. We're launching into probably our best week of the year. It's sad that Seattle kind of measures summer by a matter of just 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. And in this case, we have our hottest weather in July. So as we approach the last week in July, we should have potentially 90s next week. And for Seattle, that's pretty hot. If you guys remember, last year we had an unbelievably crazy spate of weather in June, where we at my house on one day hit 116 here in Seattle in my backyard. Never seen it before, may not ever see it again, but July is our best weather and we're in for a beautiful week next week, it looks like. So I hope things are going well where you are. You're enjoying your summer, enjoying all the good things that come along with that. And we've got a great class today. I think I'm really excited to go over this with you because I'm a really huge believer that your success in trading is directly linked. It's directly linked or connected to your mindset, to your ability to follow through and make adjustments successfully as you navigate the process of mastery, if you will. So can you verify that you're hearing me? I'm not seeing anything in the text chat except Lee. Well, let's try to do this. Let's see if this is the right one. Let's see. Let's try this one more time. So we'll go screen share. Yeah, it's a little hard to tell which screen is showing up for you guys when it's in this mode. So let me back off here just a little bit. All right, are you seeing the, we can now see your screen. Okay, good. Do you see the, yeah, oh, okay, all right. So I'm going to change the screen one time. And do you see the disclaimer now? Is that what you're seeing on the screen? And are you seeing it full screen? Is it full screen? That's the important thing. So I've got 3 big monitors here and I'm not getting a green outline. There you go. I'm not getting the green outline that I'm used to seeing that tells me which screen is active. So, and I've got the same thing on more than one screen, so it gets a little complicated. All right. First things first. On an anecdotal note, that disclaimer's been up there forever. So we'll leave it, we'll assume that you've read that. I'm not going to give you any trading advice that could confuse you into thinking that I'm saying what you should or shouldn't do on any particular trade. You all know the drill. Okay. Rob's got a class coming up, Charting Your Way to Success. Love the content that Rob puts up. All right, should be back to my picture now. I want to share something with you on the side real quick. We have a whole hour. I have something significant happening in my life right now. So you should see my smiling face right there. I have come to be a believer in alternative types of medicine. Some of you have been around me enough to know that I frequent periodically a Chinese or a Japanese shiatsu doctor. One of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. It's really not massage in the sense that massage is supposed to be relaxing and feel good. Going to see Mike is anything but relaxing and necessarily feeling good until you're done. When you walk out of there feeling a half an inch taller and like you could jump over a building, that feels pretty awesome. The process itself, not so awesome, but he's incredible. However, I was introduced to a Chinese master herbologist and acupuncture specialist who's actually not Chinese. He was 17 years. He was a monk over in China. He's lived in India and all around the world. And he spent the last 15 years studying the art of Chinese pulse diagnostics. So anybody have a clue what I'm talking about? Pulse diagnostics. Anybody heard of that? Chinese pulse diagnostics? Yes or no? Anybody? I got to know who I'm playing to here. All right, everybody says no. This is not a charlatan. I thought he was. We met him at a 4th of July, kind of a big celebration in a little island over in the Puget Sound. Fun little place. He had a little booth there, and he has an office over in Paulsbo, which is an incredibly beautiful little city on the water in the Olympic, or on the in the Puget Sound. But he's in his mid to late 70s, and I was curious as I was looking at things, waiting, because my wife got stuck at a jewelry booth, and that's boring as can be, and so I'm kind of moseying along. I sit down. And this guy says, "Yeah, come here, sit down." And he starts checking my pulse in different places where I didn't think you could measure pulse. And he did it about 4 times. And he looked at me, he says, "You have coronary artery disease and it's going to kill you." Okay, well, that's one way to get your attention. It's also a way to sell something, right? Potentially. So he says, no, I'm serious. And I said, "Well, I get checked every year with life screening and they're telling me I'm fine." He goes, "Yeah, I'm sure they are." He said, "You're very healthy for your age, extremely. He said, I can tell that." He said, "The test that you need that would tell you that you have this is not given unless you fail a treadmill test." And he said, "You're not going to fail one for a long time. By the time you get this test done, it'll be too late." I said, "Really?" Then he proceeded to tell me several other things that there's no way in the world he could have known about me, just very matter-of-factly. I'm going, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." And I got up, and somebody else was waiting, and they sat down. I stayed in earshot, and the next 2 or 3 people, he didn't say anything about coronary artery disease to any of them. So it's not like that was his pitch. Now I'm curious. So I go get my wife when she's finished at the jewelry shop or jewelry booth and bring her over there. And Cindy sits down there, and he tests her, pulse in different places, and he goes, "Well, you had a miscarriage, right?" And she just was shocked. I mean, yeah, 47 years ago. And he goes, "Yeah, it's still, I can tell." And then he proceeded to tell her about her sinuses and several other things that he could not have known, her sleep patterns. And I go, "Okay, so I'm kind of blown away." Bottom line is, we decided to make a visit out to his Paulsbo place, and we're under his care right now. Fascinating, just fascinating. I wasn't aware of that, but I'm already seeing he put us on a diet and very strong Chinese herbs. And even though he's an acupuncturist of world renown, I expected that, he would lay his whole protocol. He goes, "No, you don't need that." Really? I kind of assumed. He goes, "No." He said, "These herbs will do the job." He said, "Within 4 months." Oh, by the way, I kid you not, when he was testing my pulse on my wrist, he said, "Here, put your finger there. Can you feel it?" I can feel my pulse, sure. He says, "Feel mine." I put my hand or my finger on his wrist in the same place, and it was like a freaking fire hose. Just, he said, "That's what it should feel like." I'm going, okay. And he said, "You can have that in about 4 months." He said, "You take these herbs, they're very strong. You're not going to like them. They don't taste real good. But you take these 3 times a day in a little tea, and your system's going to clean out, and you'll have pulse like you can't believe. And it'll affect this and this and this and this." And I'm going, "Hey, what the heck?" So we paid our money. I'm drinking these nasty herbs every day. But I'll tell you what, following his diet and this, I'm already feeling better. I have, believe it or not, I have lost 10 pounds in 11 days. He says, oh yeah, you'll lose 40 pounds in 4 months. He said, I can almost guarantee. He said, well, you know, you will, if you follow this, like I'm telling you. He said, you're going to get your pulse back and you'll get strong circulation, strong immune system function. And he said, you'll lose 40 pounds. So, okay. So I'm just telling you because when you go on a challenge, it is really good to have support and to have involve other people so that you know, they know. So I'm having a hard time with this diet a little bit, but I'm committed to it, especially committed to this tea because my dad died of coronary heart disease in his 71st year. I'm not too far away from that. Freaks me out a little bit. I thought I was in good shape, and the doc says, you are, but this will kill you because it will become much, much worse before you'll ever have a test that'll show it to you. He said, this way, you don't have to worry about it. You'll live as long as you want, type of thing. You know, he just kind of laughed it off. So it's fascinating. He's in Paulsbo, Washington, which is in on the Puget Sound, over on the mainland, or not mainland, but over on Puget Sound. And it's interesting. I'll keep you up, you know, next month when we get together, I'll tell you how I'm doing because I got 4 months of this. But I just was blown away by his ability just with this pulse diagnostics to tell you what you've got going on that works and it is not working, and then be able to have something that can fix it. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm not going to get overly optimistic. I'm not going to set myself up for disappointment, but guys, 10 pounds in 11 days and I'm eating regular. I don't always, it's kind of boring what I get to eat, but sometimes, but I'm not starving, that's for sure. And it's coming off. So there you go. All right, enough of that. But so why'd I bother with that? Well, sometimes, how'd that happen? Hang on, my window screen share clicked off. Is it back now? Yes, all right. And let's see, get back to this. Suddenly I've got Wealth Builders on my screen, on my other screen instead of the slideshow. So interesting. All right, well, here we go. Guys, I titled this 2 millimeters. Whoops, still can't see you. Well, Helen, you're looking at, you should be looking at a slide that has my face on it. Yes. I'm not putting myself on the camera because I want you to see the slides. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, good. I was afraid that with slides on the left, the slide should be full size. So there we go. Now is it full size? Should be full size. Lee, is it now full size? Yes. Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. All right, here we go, guys. I called this 2 millimeters. I recently was told a story about a plastic surgeon and golf in the same story. And it went something like this. Hang on. There we go. Let's back up. Let's go ahead. The story went something like this. One of the, if not the premier plastic surgeon in the United States, and also flies around, gets paid $1 million to go over to the Sultan of Brunei and fix 2 faces. But in his work, he describes the art of, or the science of beauty. This, by the way, is some supermodel named Hadid or something. Anyway, according to science, this is the most beautiful facial structure that there is. For some reason, it doesn't float my boat, but But apparently you measure the distance between the bottom of the nose and the top of the lip and the top of the eye and to the bottom of the eye. And from the forehead line between the eyebrows up into the hairline and all of this stuff. It's all science. And this guy was saying a 1 millimeter shift in the size, the distance between the bottom of the nose and the top of the lips can go from, a stunning beauty model to just average. And a 2 millimeter shift goes from average or from stunning, beautiful, perfect model to butt ugly. I mean, that's what he said. So 2 millimeters goes from perfection to butt ugly, apparently in the world of the science of beauty. I don't know about that, but that was the point that he was making. The other thing that was the story talked about was golf. And all of the different shifts. Number one, golf is the most freakingly schizophrenic game in the world, because about the time you think you got it, about the time you hit 2 good shots in a row, you're just setting yourself up to get kicked in the teeth. Am I right? Am I right or am I not right? How many of you guys can relate to the idea that that golf is just set up to make you feel bad about yourself, or actually to make you feel schizophrenic, right? So Tripp goes, hallelujah. Yep. So the point is that the face of the club is impacted by so many things. Your posture, the way you're holding your grip, the way you move yourself. You can line it up perfectly, and by the time you swing, when it comes down, if it's off even 1 or 2 millimeters, instead of going straight, that thing can shank off to one way, or it can hook off to the other side, and you swear you did it exactly the same way. You swear you did it exactly the same way. Everything felt right, except this time it goes, sorry, just getting over into the pond instead of straight onto the green. Oops, over into the sand pit, sand trap, instead of onto the green or down the fairway. So frustrating, but that slight adjustment when that face hits the ball is everything. Is everything. So when we talk about trading is not easy. It's simple. It's simple enough to, make a trade, but trading itself is not easy. In golf, we talk about posture, and the hand position, and turning it slightly in, turning it slightly out, shifting the weight on your hip. So many freaking variables that you've got to get right to hit it. And every once in a while, you unconsciously smack it perfectly. It feels right. Everything's good. And so you can't wait. You have a big smile. You set up, you hit the next one, and it goes flying off the course. It's just so frustrating. In trading, you are literally in a battle. Who are you battling against? You're battling against you, guys. You're not battling against the market. Please do not think that you're in a personal battle against the market, because it's not personal. The market doesn't know you exist. It's like watching a river go by. It's not personal. You can jump in at the right time, or you can jump in and get smashed against the rocks. It's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with you. But guys, when you trade, I'm sorry, when you are ever trading where what happens is dependent on what the market does, it's a guess. Can you trade with basically no risk, to where you don't care what the market does? And the answer is yes. But you trade something for that. You trade profitability. If you put on enough safeguards to where you can limit every possible outcome, it reduces by default, it will reduce your profitability. Okay. It'll reduce your profitability down to the more safeguards that you put on it, the less profit. So you're paying for it. You're paying for certainty. The certainty in trading comes at a price. Okay. Who can tell me a trade that you can make where you have a built-in profit and no risk? Is it possible? I'm waiting. Can you take a trade where there is no risk to you if you're willing to hold on to a stock and still make a profit? So if you're willing to hold on to the underlying instrument, can you make a trade with a guaranteed profit and no risk? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. More than one way. But you have to be willing to anchor yourself to that entity, whatever that is that you're trading, whatever that is that you are putting your money into. You've got to say, okay, I'm willing to hold on to this as an asset. Okay, that's a strategy. That's a strategy. But you have to have, there will always be conditions. There's no such thing as a totally risk-free trade. People will say that, but there's always an assumption. There's always some base assumption that goes on to that. And with that qualifier, you could say it has a no risk on the trade. Okay. But other than that, guys, if you're engaged with the market, it's a guess. It may be an educated guess, but it's a guess. That has to be a reality. Karen says a covered call. Exactly. Exactly. And what's your risk on the covered call? They say that your risk is that the stock gets taken away from you at a higher price and you get a premium. Yay. What could go wrong with that? If the stock doesn't go higher and it isn't taken away from you, then you get the premium and you still own the stock. What if the stock goes to zero? There's the catch. Okay. Well, I don't believe it's going to go to zero. Okay, great. That's a guess. That's your belief. Could you sign your life on that? Would you sign your life on that? I don't think so. So those are the conditions, guys, that you have to acknowledge exist. Now, when you set a golf ball in motion, it is on a path and it is going somewhere. And your inputs into that are going to dictate where that's going to go. When you start into a trade, there are things that are going to dictate which way this thing goes. And I want to introduce this next thought by just reminding you, there is a process that we are getting very, very advanced in, which is using automation and autopilot type of systems. In the early days and way back, the sun and the stars were used as reference points. So you would locate and you would dial into the sun or the star position of the stars, and you would set reckoning based on that. Along came technology, and with airplanes, they developed what's called a VOR. Okay, and a VOR is a signal post that would send out a signal at a fixed location. And an airplane from great distance away with the right equipment could pick up on that signal. Now that signal told him exactly on a map where that point was coming from. And if they were flying in that direction, you would set up the reckoning on your airplane on that instrument so that it could see that signal in front, and it would show you with an arrow how you are lined up with the signal. And if you're lined up pointing directly at the signal, you're going to fly to that spot. It's great, except that you were never pointing exactly at the signal, except as you crossed between slightly to the right or slightly to the left. In other words, there was a constant adjustment. The VOR signal could not be locked in to where you could not get off of it. You had to keep watching it. You would set your course, but it was constantly being adjusted based on crossing across the VOR signal. Now, a great corollary to that is a dog who has a nose that is hundreds of times more sensitive than yours is and mine is. And a dog follows scent through the air by going back and forth across the signal. If you watch a dog tracking something, it never goes in a perfectly straight line. I shouldn't say never. Sometimes when it gets line of sight, or if it gets strong enough, and maybe it looks like it's going direct. But when it's searching, it will go to the left, it'll go to the right, go to the left, and what it's sensing is the scent is getting stronger, stronger, stronger as it goes to the left. Now it's getting weaker, weaker, weaker. Okay, so head back to the right, stronger, 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 now weaker, weaker, weaker. And it would go back and forth as it moves. And as it homes in, those adjustments get smaller and smaller until it gets a line of sight, and then it's a dead sprint to the target. Okay, that's the way the VORs work. Now we have autonomous, whether it's autopilot in the airplanes or self-driving, which self-driving vehicles is fascinating and scary at the same time. But look at this, guys. Autonomous vehicles will generate as much as 40 terabytes of data per hour. Inputs from the cameras, from the radar, from other sensors that are allowing it to manipulate space and without running into things. It's the equivalent to an iPhone's use over 3,000 years in 1 hour. Think of that. Your self-driving car, anybody have one? I don't have one yet. I've driven them, but does anybody have a self-driving car? Somebody out there's got to have one. So now you got something at the next party you go to where you can sound like the smartest person in the room. You can say, well, my self-driving car produces enough data in 1 hour to be equivalent to using your iPhone for 3,000 years. And it also sucks in massive amounts more just to navigate the roads. This is according to an article that I found in Morgan Stanley. Okay, so what's the point? Guys, when you have a system that is automated, that's telling you to do, and a trading system is a trading system. This is one of my favorite episodes ever of The Office, where Michael is listening to the GPS lady, and she says, turn left, and Dwight's going, Michael, it's a lake, but she said turn left, and boom, follow the GPS. Hysterically, a group of travelers, well, that's not hysterically, but pretty scary, in Utah, I found a ton of these, nearly plunged off a cliff because they were following their GPS, and had they not looked up, they would have gone over a cliff to their death. This Mr. Mohammadi drove nearly 20 feet down a railroad track in some place called Goole, East Yorkshire in England. He told the police his GPS had told him to do so. A limo driver followed his GPS down a flight of steps. And Swedish tourists were directed to a part of Italy called Capri that wasn't the Capri they were looking for. They actually put in the GPS, and instead of Capri on the beach with a beautiful sandy beach, they went to a little seedy industrial town in northern Italy and wondered where the beach was, and didn't figure it out till they got out and said, where's the beach? Crazy. And this one I love. Mr. Ziegler's GPS told him to turn onto what looked like a hiking trail in Bergen, Switzerland. He followed it, just like Michael. Turns out it was a trail for goats. I kept hoping each little turn would get me back to the main road. In the end, it told me to turn around, but of course, by then I couldn't. They had to fly him out with a helicopter. They had to lift him and his van off of a mountain peak to get him down to safety. It's crazy. So what's the point? Guys, if you don't have a trading plan, you're toast. And what we're talking about, just like we talked about the slight 2 millimeter shifts for plastic surgery, for golf, or whatever, sometimes the littlest, tiniest adjustments will make huge differences. Now, I want to share something with you, and I hope I can do it with these words on the screen and you won't be distracted, but I want you to hear this. I am an Aikido instructor. That's what I do for fun. It's one of the things I love to do. I've done it for 22 years now. I've been an instructor. I was an instructor after just about 3 or 4 years, 4 years. I started in teaching classes. So I've been doing this a long time. Just after I got my black belt, they say black belt is when you start to learn your art. That's when you start to learn it, after you get your black belt. It took me about 7 or 8 years. In our art, you don't get it fast. They do not pass them out because you pay for a test. So a visiting instructor that I just absolutely almost worship. This guy, he was from the East. He'd been trained by some guys in the East, and they were directly from the Japan Kodokai. He would do things to us guys that were magic. I mean, I seriously would sit there in amazement, and I would say, let me do it. And I would grab a hold of him, and he would have me twisting and moving and flying and falling down. And I couldn't figure out what he was doing. Nothing brash. I couldn't see. He wasn't punching me. I just grabbed a hold of him, and I felt like I'd grabbed an electrical charge, and I would rise up on my toes and start to almost shake, and I would fall and go wherever he pointed me. It was amazing. Freaked me out. And so I took one of my other black belts that I loved to train with, and we started studying and trying to duplicate. And he would see us and he would watch people. He would just show us how to do it and then say, work on it. It never worked. And Tom and I worked so hard and we're getting really close. And one day I'll never forget, Tom and I were working together, and I was trying to do this technique and just trying to move my body and my hand the way he did. And it looked right, but it just wasn't working. He walked over, he didn't say anything. His hands were crossed. He kind of looked down, he was watching. And so, he kind of nodded. So we kept going. And finally, he looked around. He kind of glanced left and right. I saw him glance left and right. Then he reached down, he took my wrist and he adjusted it about less than a half an inch, that 2 millimeter shift. And he put his hand away. And guys, I did it. And my buddy Tom leaped up off the ground with this shocked look in his face and with pain. And my eyes are wide open going, oh my gosh. And I just moved my body with a little shift and Tom went flying. He literally dove and took a roll on the mat. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I can't believe that it was magic. And Tom was blown away. Oh my gosh. Oh, that felt just like Todd. And I looked over and Todd was just starting to turn away and his head was down and he was shaking his head like he was in shame. And the sad thing was the way he was trained, you never give that information. The students work on it. If they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't. Nobody is worthy of giving the secret. They just have to figure it out on their own. Well, Todd was seeing how hard we were working, how close we were. And the fact is that if we didn't make that slight, tiny adjustment, we're never going to get it. We were never going to do it because we were doing what we thought we saw, not what needed to be done. And so he condescended to reach down and give me a 2 millimeter adjustment. And folks, it changed my Aikido. I mean, it first of all, I was a believer because I felt what he did. But then when I realized that it was no secret, I mean, it wasn't magic. It was just knowing what to do and that slight little 2 millimeter adjustment, and it worked. It made all the difference in the world. Now, I've given you 3 different examples. Can you apply this to trading? The answer is yes. Will you? Answer is, I don't know. I hope so. When you develop a trading plan, you have to pick a market that you are going to play in. You're going to trade the Forex. You're going to trade options on stocks. You are going to trade stocks themselves, in a long-term portfolio and write covered calls on them. Or you're going to do cash accumulation through naked puts. Nothing wrong with naked puts. As long as you know the rules, nothing wrong with it. Is it particularly risky? No, it's not. It's not, as long as you understand the rules and what you're doing it for. Objective, what you're doing it for. What am I doing? I want short-term cash flow. I want cash flow every day. I want it every week. I want it monthly. I want cash flow every 6 months. Whatever it is, you have to have a clearly defined objective. How frequently do you want to trade? Oh, I want to do it every day. Okay, great. Then that's going to give you a whole different trading plan than somebody who says, I can't afford to do that every day. I don't have the time, but I could work on it 1 day a week. Fine, that'll work. There's plenty of strategies that you can do 1 day a week. Setup. Do you know the setup? What is it that says this is ready to trade? What does it have to look like? What do the numbers have to be? What do the indicators have to show you? Maybe you don't even use indicators. What is the signal source that you're using? What is the setup that says, okay, put a trade on? You have to have that extremely well defined to start with. Doesn't mean it's perfect. And probably that will be one of the 2 millimeter adjustments that you can make to see if, let's change the setup a little bit, see if that works a little better. The R's, your risk analysis, your risk units. How much are you willing to risk? Well, that is not a subjective question. That's not I think I'm willing to risk $50. No, that's quite frankly a very poor answer. Okay. A risk unit is defined by the the trade that you're doing and the potential profit. You have to look at the trade and say, if all goes well, what is the potential profit? Okay. A risk unit is oftentimes identified, and it doesn't have to be, it can be identified. You can put the category, you can put the definition any way you want, but typically it's defined as a profit margin, a doubling. So if I put in $100 on this trade, if I make $100, typically that's called 1R. It's also the risk unit, because if you lose 100, and remember, I don't use the word lose, I did it there on purpose, because if you don't have a good trading plan, you will lose. It's not a cost of doing business. You're losing because you've got a loser trading plan. Okay. But if the trade goes against you and it costs you $100, it costs you 1R. So it gives you a risk unit. Now you base your trading tolerance, your trading input and exit, your entries and exits based off of some formulation of R's. If I get to 1R, this is what I do. If I get to a half an R, this is what I do. If I get to 3 R's, this is what I do. If it costs me 1R, this is what I do. You have to build the plan around that. And it's a set of rules. Your trade size. What's the right size of trading? You know, it's not just risk. What's the trade size? Do you trade in 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 blocks? Or do you say, I do 10 contracts? Well, 10 contract trade might be $1,000 on one trade and 50,000 on another trade. And sometimes, you know, people can build a strategy around that. I think that's a little bit crazy. It certainly isn't for novice traders. It's better, in my opinion, to have a trade size that is a dollar amount, plus or minus a little fluctuation, but a dollar amount, so that you spread your risk out on a trade level on a relatively smooth or even basis. Okay. Then we go to tolerance. What can you afford to invest in a trade that goes against you? And how many times could you have a trade go against you before you should step off the playing field, step off onto the sidelines? What is your tolerance? Where is your tolerance for exiting the trade? Now, is there a tolerance for on the upside, the profit? Yeah, technically in a trade plan, there would be, but it doesn't have to be. You can have an open-ended trade. But on the downside, you better have a tolerance. And it's a defined tolerance. It's not just pain. It's not like, oh my gosh, if this goes down another $1,000, I'm going to kill myself, so I better get out. That's a lousy definition. It's a definition, but it's a lousy one, a tolerance. Okay, tolerance is sustainability. When I said earlier, how many trades can go against you before you pull away from the trade, that has to do with your tolerance. And that's not a pain tolerance. It's mathematical. It's mathematical. Let's say you've got a trading account of $10,000. If you have a risk factor on each trade that is $1,000, how many of those could go against you before you would pull the trigger? Well, the answer is we don't know yet, but we do know that if 3 went against you, it would take $3,000 out of your account. Well, you've got to set a limit, a sustainable limit. So what do you mean? How do you have a sustainable limit? Well, you have to say, if one trade goes in my favor, it will be 2 R's. That's our definitions. 2 R's would be a successful trade. Okay. So if one trade goes against you, that's 1 R. One trade goes against you, that's negative 2 R's. A trade goes in your favor, it's plus 2. All right, we've done 3 trades, we broke even. Are we still in the game? The answer is, yeah, we're still in the game. I'll jump ahead just a little bit on a point that I mentioned later, but I want to mention it now as well. And that is, there is such a thing as what I call the 20% rule. And that is that at the end of any extended period of trading, all of your profits will come from about 20% of your trades. So let's say that you allow for 2 trades to go against you for every 1 that goes in your favor. Okay, and you may have that even built into your plan as a trading ratio. I want 2 times the upside as the risk, or I won't do the trade. Personally, I think those are lousy odds. Personally, I don't like to trade unless there's 4. If there's a potential for $4 on the trade and my risk is 1, that's a 4-to-1 ratio. Okay, I'm good with that. 3-to-1, yeah, if it's been working pretty good and the ratio drops just a little bit, but I seem to be able to trade this stock fairly well, yeah, I'll do a 3-to-1, but not a 2-to-1. It's not enough. There's not enough coverage, leverage. So let's say you're operating to a 4-to-1. 2 trades go against you, that's -2. 1 trade goes in your favor, that's +4. Boom, you're up 2. Now 3 go against you. That means you're down 3. Now you're only up 1. At that point, you may be looking at going, okay, something's off. How would you know that? Guys, the only way you would know that is if you have been trading this for a while. Well, what if the trading plan doesn't work on this stock? And you've been trading it, and now you're down, it's cost you half your money. You're 50% down in your account, or even 60% down in your account, going, I don't think this is working. Guys, 60% down to figure out it isn't working? Not a good way to do it, and not necessary. What if you traded with just a small amount, i.e., very small amount, so that you could do a bunch of trades and find out, do I have this stock, this entity, this trading venue, do I have it figured out? And you look at your statistics, you review your trade, and you go, you know what? I'm not doing very well on this, okay? You've got to have a well-defined kill switch, or at least a timeout that says, I don't think this is working. Let's stop. Let's go back over our numbers. Let's see, you know, and you do, and you go, you know, it was working great for 3 months, but this last month, it's in the toilet. This is a real stinker, okay? Those are facts. If you see that it worked fine for 3 months and now it isn't working and you're doing the same thing, nothing wrong with you. Except when the little kid comes up and says, Mommy, it hurts when I do this. What did mom say? Any good mom's going, well, quit doing that. Quit doing it. Take a time out. Something's wrong. And it's not you unless you keep doing it. You're just observing now that, hey, what was working isn't working. Okay, so take a time out. Does that mean, well, we better go find something else to trade? Not necessarily. You certainly could. But if this was working, maybe it's just in a slump. Maybe there's something going on that will correct itself. So what do? You keep trading it. Oh, I don't want to keep having it cost money. Well, then don't. Keep following it with simulated trades, i.e. unfunded trades. And when those funded trades start to work again, maybe you can go back to it. Go, yeah, you know, this one used to work really good, and now it seems to be working again. I know how to do it. System works. Let's go back and let's apply that trading plan to it. And as long as it's coming back into favor, we should be able to do well. And what if after 1 or 2 weeks, it starts to get stinky again? You jump out because you already know this game. You go, okay, now it's getting inconsistent. Now maybe you're not my friend anymore. Hint, never was your friend. But maybe now you're not something I should be trading. Okay? So guys, the point is you have to develop the plan. You have to stick to it, and you have to evaluate it. I looked up who came up with inspect what you expect. Well, it didn't say it quite that way, but Louis V. Gestner Jr. said, people don't do what you expect, but what you inspect. And that's where the phrase came from. I mean, it's prolific. It's innocuous throughout all business, journal, and good training and good management principles. It's great. If you don't inspect it, don't be disappointed if you don't get it. Okay, and this is where I mentioned about the 20% rule. You have to inspect, otherwise you can get very discouraged. Guys, you may have several trades go in your favor, and you may have a few go against you, and a few that go against you, if you don't manage them properly, could wipe out all the profits that you've made. And then you may feel like when you look at your account, you're going, this isn't going very well. And maybe it isn't, but maybe it is. Maybe you're in a situation where periodically you will score 3 R's or 4 R's. You know, you're looking for that 4-to-1 ratio, and you get that 4-to-1. And when you get those 4-to-1s, they wipe out a whole bunch of the ones, the negative ones. And if you happen to hit a streak where you get 3 or 4 of the 4 R's, boom, suddenly you're up. Now you could look back over 20 trades and say, you know what? I was I was actually only profitable on about 20% of the trades that I did accounted for all of the profits after you did the pluses and minuses. So why is that important? Well, because when you look at it, you may think by the numbers that you're failing, but there's still a profit, a big profit. Well, of course. And that simply means that if you track that, it will help you get used to the fact that I don't have to be profitable on every 3rd trade. I don't have to be profitable 2 out of every 6 trades. It just has to average out that. And if you can show that that works, then you have a trading plan for that particular entity. But it is not uncommon at all. If you're objectively looking at your trading plan or your trading plan results, if you're looking at your data, to find that about 20% of your trades accounted for all of the profit. Now, that's not hard and fast, but it is a good generalization. Can anybody who's been trading for a while verify that with your own? Can anybody verify that it's really just a few of your trades that wind up creating the net gain? If you've got a net gain, it's not because you're getting 9 out of 10 trades go your favor. Can that happen? Yeah, but it's the exception. It's certainly not the rule. Anybody back me up on that? I've seen almost no comments in the chat for a long time. So I either got dropped off and I've been talking to myself for a long time, or there just hasn't been. Charles, hey, Charles, how are you, buddy? He says, so true. It is. And Tripp says it is. Guys, I know Charles and Tripp for many, many, many years. I know they've been trading a long time, and they're right. And if you haven't been trading very long, hang in there and recognize, don't judge yourself too harshly unless you keep pounding yourself in the head and saying, Mommy, it hurts when I do this. All right. Next one, objective evaluation. It is very valuable if you will review your plan and review your progress with a partner, with a friend, somebody who is an interested third party. Okay. Now, not everybody has somebody like that you can talk to, but boy, if you can, it is really, really helpful. All right. Helen, I get it. She says, I'm just listening intently. And that's what I was hoping. Seriously, that's what I was hoping. But you never know. They say when you're talking to somebody, if you can't remember the last time the other person said something, if you're the one flapping your gums, then you're not listening for sure, and you're probably talking way too much. You probably lost them. So I was just double checking. Okay. Now, if you can review with a partner or friend, it is really powerful. Record and review. You should have a trading journal. In that journal, you should document how each trade went. You don't have to write a book, but it helps at the beginning to write as much as you can. Include in there what you were feeling, what your energy levels were like. Was your focus good? Did you just eat heavy before you sat down to do your trading? There's all kinds of things when you're trying to figure out what the causal relationship is, the cause and effect relationship is. You may find out it's a simple little thing. A 2 millimeter shift could be, don't eat before you sit down to trade. Why? What happens when you eat? The whole body chemistry changes and your brain chemistry changes. And it goes into, depending on what you ate, a whole different mode of recovery, and you don't think clearly. Okay? And it's a big deal. You may find that there's a common denominator that you would have never found otherwise, but you wrote it down and you went, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I wonder if let's try this. Let's make this little adjustment, and boom, you find out, hey, we get big results. A small rudder turns a big boat. Okay, a 2 millimeter shift between beauty and butt ugly. Okay. Tripp says small profits, small costs, and break even cancel out a majority of the trades. Exactly. Exactly. If you never have any large costs, then your large profits make your year. That is what I've been teaching for years, guys. Trip is exactly right. When you have small costs and small profits, they cancel each other out. When you have a break even, cancels each other out. You can have 6, 7, 8, 10 trades go by and you haven't made any money. Don't be discouraged. That means you've been in battle with the market and you made 8 trades and it hasn't cost you anything. That's great. Yeah, but I didn't make any profit. Don't worry. If you can control that to stay neutral, then we will hit. Guys, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? And you will hit those 4 R's here and there, and they will be the total of your profit. When you eat, Tripp says, the blood goes to your stomach. That's where it's needed to process the food. It drains it out of your brain a little bit, and so again, if you keep the journal, you may pick up on something that will blow your mind. A little thing, big results. Record and review. That's the feelings. Okay. Or that's the journaling, and include your feelings. Next thing, are you following your plan? If you're looking at your trading and you're following your plan, then what do you need to adjust? Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just, if it's working, just keep doing it. Yeah, but I haven't made the profit yet. Keep doing it. We just talked about that. If you look at it and realize, I'm really kind of not following my plan, I keep shifting, or I keep moving away from this or moving away from that, man, that's frustrating. I thought I was doing it. I planned on doing it, and I'm not. Okay, so make adjustments. But guys, you cannot evaluate something you're not doing. If you're not doing your plan, you don't know if it's working. You have to literally follow it and see if it works. And then if it doesn't, adjust. So here's the difference between, are you following the plan or is the plan working? There's a difference. You say the plan's not working, but I am following it. That means, what do we need to adjust? That's what the yes is. Are you following the plan? Yes. Is it working or not working? Well, we didn't talk about that. If it's working, great, keep doing it. If it's not, make an adjustment. That's what we've been talking about. If you're not following the plan, get back to the plan. Again, you cannot evaluate something you're not doing. Now let's talk about strengths and weakness. How do you recognize strengths and weakness? This is interesting. This is very interesting. First of all, don't quit if you're frustrated. Also, don't celebrate in the end zone. I mean, they even have a penalty now. In football, if you celebrate in the end zone too much, you get a penalty. Okay, well, I did good. I want to jump up and down and throw the ball and celebrate. And no, I think it's kind of stupid. It's kind of woke crap in my mind, because celebrating makes the other team feel bad because you beat them and you got in the end zone, and they feel really bad because you knocked over their blockers and you took the ball in the end zone, and we don't want them. You can't be celebrating and rubbing their nose in it, and we just beat you, or we just scored a touchdown. Oh my gosh, grow up, people. Anyway, I digress. But if things aren't working, guys, don't just quit out of frustration. As we said on the previous slide, you have to evaluate it. You're doing the plan right. It's just not working. Okay. Well, like we said with Tripp, maybe you're in that phase where you're trading blows, a little bit of a profit, a little bit of a cost, break even, a little bit of profit, a little bit of a cost, break even. We're not getting anywhere. The plan isn't working. I'm frustrated. No. You may need just a little more time. Don't quit. You might be quitting right in front of the finish line. There's many stories about that where people get frustrated and there's a classic story of somebody running in the fog and they think they know where they're at. They finally get so tired they just fall down out of frustration because they can't see the target anymore. Fog clears, people run past them, and the finish line was 10 feet in front of them. It's classic. You don't know. If you're not following the plan, it's a different story. But, just because you're frustrated doesn't mean you should necessarily quit. You should question, though. Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with questioning. Is this really what I want to do? That's a good question, guys. Don't be doing it because of a motive that precludes your ability to feel good about it. This needs to be fulfilling. If it's not fulfilling, I don't think anything's worth doing. Okay? Is it really what you want to do? If it is, fine. Keep doing it. You can look at it and say, is it fulfilling? Will it be fulfilling? Could it be fulfilling? And if the answer is yes, then keep going. Keep going. But evaluate it like we talked about on the previous slide. Okay. Look, repetition is the mother of skill, but doing the same thing over and over again, according to Einstein, is insanity. But you do have to repeat. You do have to have lots of repetitions so you can evaluate and make slight adjustments and get yourself, like the VOR, tracking, or like the dog sniffing the air. You keep going back and forth across, and the signal gets a little stronger, and pretty soon your wobbles left and right are smaller and smaller until it's almost a straight line. Guys, that's the way it goes. So be determined. Make adjustments, execute, review it, revise it, then repeat. Execute, review, revise, repeat. Make adjustments, execute, review, revise, repeat. Or else just go in a different direction altogether. Guys, if it's too frustrating, you've done everything you need to do, then quit beating your head against the wall. Mommy, it hurts when I do this. Well, quit doing it. Do something else. That's what it takes. What should you adjust? Well, here's some ideas, because I know you were probably wondering, give me some specifics. Well, here's some specifics. Trade size. If things aren't working and you're taking a little bit of a hit, too big of a hit to where it's making you feel nervous, drop your trade size down. It'll change your attitude. If you start becoming aware and it starts to hurt when a trade goes against you, maybe you're trading too much. You can keep trading, just reduce the size of the pain, or take it out altogether. But trade size is one adjustment that you can tweak to the system. Play both sides. That's what that baseball cap is, with the bill going both directions. Guys, sometimes what I've done is I'll just start trading both sides. I know I'm not probably going to make a profit on this trade, but out of frustration, rather than throw my hands up and walk away and knock something over on the way out the door, play both sides. Why? Well, it allows you to be neutral. It allows you to go, oh, hey, that worked. That didn't work. Okay. Do another one. It allows you to be neutral when you've got it, when you're playing both sides. Now, yeah, it's just a throwaway, but it allows you to stay in the game and kind of experience what's going on, get your head back. The other thing is you can test your instinct. Okay. That don't risk very much money, or maybe none at all, but just go with your instinct and find out if it's any good. And the reason I say that is because if you have good instincts, if you can just allow yourself to just go with it, just relax and flow and test your instincts, you may find out that you're gifted. You're picking up on subtle signals. You're kind of dialing in to patterns. You may be fine. You may be great. Most people aren't, but you might be. So find out. The other thing is you could find out your instincts suck. Okay? That's an excellent thing to find out. You might think that's a little bit strange, but it's not. It's an excellent thing to find out. My instincts suck. Good. Don't go your instincts. Well, then how do you trade? I tell students, look at the data. It looks like it's going to go up. The indicators look like they're going to go up. The market, it looks like it's going to go up. So play it in that direction with your stop in place. And if it does what it looks like it's going to do, the trade will work. If it doesn't do what it's going to look like, if it doesn't do what it looks like it's going to do, it's not your fault. And you find out, wow, that's weird. It didn't do what it looked like it's going to do. So what if you're trading the stock and you're trying to get to know this stock and you find out that it almost never does what it looks like it's going to do? Then, my friends, you're on the wrong stock. Unless you want to take a trading strategy that says whatever it looks like it's going to do, I'm going to go the other direction. That's a strategy. It's a pattern. If you can figure that pattern out, every time this stock looks like it's going to go up, it actually goes down. That's a strategy. You can make a lot of money on that. Okay. Right? You make a lot of money on that strategy as long as you dial it in. I say, play the way it looks like it's going to go. Do not play the way you think it's going to go, because what you think doesn't count. All right. Risk management, R's. You may change the size of your R's. You may change the ratio, 4-to-1, 3-to-1. These are things you can adjust. Maybe you're setting your goals too high on your R's. You're looking for 4R trades. You could consistently be getting 3R trades. but you're not getting them because you're waiting for it to go to 4 and it doesn't go to 4 very often, but you pass up a whole bunch of 3s. Booyah. 2 millimeter adjustment, you're back in the game. Rerun your trades with small adjustments to see results. I love this one. Go back over the last months of trades and say, if I made this little adjustment, what would it have been? All the data is, there's so much data now, you can do this easily. Go back and replay it. Replay it with the slight adjustment to your strategy and see what the numbers come out. If they're better, you got a clue. If they're not better, you also have a clue. But you'll never find out unless you do. Now, I love the comment. Let's see who. Wow, there's a whole bunch from Trip. Keep going here. He said, I love these discussions to remind me of what I already know. Repetition is the mother of skill. Trip says, I was watching Moneyball last weekend, one of the best movies ever. Showed a video of a guy who fell at first and crawled back to the bag, but he hit a home run. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't watched that movie, everybody should watch it. I love it. I love it. All right, guys, last two slides here real quick. Making changes is not easy, or is it? Change as you need to make it in your life and your trading can be as easy as or difficult as your approach. People say it's impossible to change, it's hard to change, and yet they will change their preference of a sandwich just with one bite. They will change their preference of a steakhouse with one trip. So change is kind of interesting. It's not difficult in certain circumstances. It's virtually impossible in other circumstances. When you challenge your core beliefs, you're in for a fight. They define you. It's survival level. You will resist like suffocating or drowning to change a core belief. Because they're acting to protect you. They're connected to your survival mechanism. They're not rational. They're pure emotional. They're simply objective, keep you alive. And it could be a horrible, terrible, destructive thing that you do, but somewhere along the line, you associated that with something that is necessary for you to survive. And so you're locked in this self-defeating behavior and you can't get out of it. That's very difficult, not impossible, but you can't approach it head on. You can't just go grab it and say, I'm going to rip you out of here. Now you've taken, you've spit in the face of the tiger. Okay. I was going to ask you for some examples. We don't have time. But I'm going to tell you that change can be easy as pie if you see it as a better option. When you're presented with brand new facts and you have an emotional reinforcement and you see this is going to give you a better result, people can flip on a dime. Okay, in that environment, you can look at that and say, you got this. And yeah, I do. I get this. This is good. Snap, it's done. But it's only in that environment. You have to repeat the success in that environment. So when you sit in this class and you have an aha moment, you sit in somebody else's class, you have an aha moment. You watch a video and you have an aha moment. You say, from now on, I'm going to do this. This is great. I'm so excited about this. And then you go back and you sit in your office and it's the same temperature and you hear the same sounds and you have the same people around you and the computer looks the same. You're going to slide right back into that same mode. You cannot put new wine into old bottles. Okay, if you understand the reference, that biblical reference. When you see something that is better, something new, something you want to embrace, you have to change the circumstances so that when you go home, you have that same environment. You can't go back to the old environment and expect the new idea is going to change the old environment. It doesn't work that way. You go back and you change that environment so that it meets this new expectation. And if it's possible, try to enlist a third party, a friend. You have got an incredible friend in Rob who is constantly trying to reinforce these mechanisms, these support through repetition and additional training. Does it cost money? Yes. Does it cost time? Yes. But that's like hiring an advisor. It's like hiring a consultant. It's like hiring a training coach. It's worth it if it helps you make the changes you need to make. And sometimes those changes are tiny. Share the plan, share the adjustments, share the results, inspect it, process it, talk it out. Talk out the progress and the challenges. And then for crying out loud, give yourself a break, guys. This is not easy. It's doable. It's not easy. But my best and strongest advice is to figure out a way where you can utilize somebody else to help be an accountability factor as you try to do a very difficult thing, which is to make changes by yourself in a live fire exercise. Okay, is it doable? Yes, it's doable. But there's some sense to it. All right. Charles says, great class. Tripp is right. It's nice to be reminded of what we already know. Yeah, just because you know it. Remember, guys, I've told you this before. The science of education says that it takes 5 to 7 times, 5 to 7 times, having an aha moment on the same thing. Okay, I get it. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Okay, I got it. Okay, that's one number 4. We're not done yet. What? 4 times yep, I know. But after 5, 6, or 7 times, it will stick. And you won't be saying, oh yeah, I knew that. Oh crap, why did I do that again? I knew better. Of course you did. But it isn't installed. It isn't internalized yet. Keep working on it. It will be. Repetition is the mother of skill. All right. That's all I got for you. Hope this was valuable today, guys. Karen says, I really appreciate your class and knowledge. They're so inspiring and encouraging. Good. I appreciate that a great deal. And like I said, I got props to Rob for having this format here. I just love the opportunity to share some things with you every month. And Rob puts stuff out there for you almost every day, week after week. It's amazing. Okay. Take advantage of it. Take care, guys. God bless. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you soon.